Welcome everyone to our wonderful series of webinars. I am Rahul Nambiar from Terminal X. Terminal X today is a one-stop solution for some of the latest fascinating and innovative products with value-added services for various kinds of infrastructure projects to system integrators. We have partnered with several large OEMs and startups and continually at par with latest technological innovations. In this session, we are going to learn about PAVA system, peripherals, speakers, some of the equipments and devices associated to it. PAVA system itself is vast with a variety of product range having n number of applications. We will be learning about PAVA 8000 series, the construction, application, working, different equipments and devices that support the amplifier. A small outlook over the company, the manufacturing company. DSPPA is one such versatile company who is a leader and pioneer in the manufacturing of such fantastic audio systems and PA systems. This is a company with plethora of amazing products. Few points to highlight before we move on with the webinar. So after the completion of each topic, so there will be some questions that will be asked to you based on the topic that we have understood. So you need to answer those questions and then we will be moving on to the next topic. Apart from that, if you have any other specific questions to the webinar with respect to the product, so you can put forward in the Q&A chat box. It will be answered at the end of the session. So please make a note of all the questions you have. So let's begin. If you can look at the schematic diagram that is shown in front of you, we have an input, there is an amplifier, and there is an output. So keep this thought in the mind. So we have an input is connected to the amplifier, and from the amplifier, we receive different outputs. This will be very important. I mean, this part will be very useful for us when we are going to learn about the amplifier in the next slides. So the company is having its business in almost 30 countries. It's a global distributor. Yeah. So what are PAVA systems? It's public address and voice alarm systems that allow safe and controlled building evacuation to be managed in case of an emergency. So in case of any emergency or any contingency situation, if we want to communicate or transmit some important messages, PAVA systems are very important. If we want to control the crowd, at the same time, transmit very crucial messages at the time of emergency, so that the crowd should be managed and whatever kind of strategy is planned, it should be communicated to the crowd in the case of an emergency. Otherwise, it can create a problem. So PAVA systems play a very important role in the case of building evacuation, contingency situations, emergency situations. The place where we want to transmit clear voice messages, okay, in the case of building evacuation. At the same time, if we want to play background music and paging, if you want to communicate with one department to another department through paging mic stations, all these are possible through PAVA systems. So what are the benefits of PAVA systems? It supports large number of paging zones and evacuations. You can group zones, ungroup zones based on the requirement. A small understanding about zones. So zones are nothing but, let's take an example of a building here. So in building, you have different floors, right? We have first floor, second floor, and third floor. So zones are nothing but like floors only, like first zone, second zone, third zone. So in this way, we can transmit messages and communicate to different zones. All right. So just keep that thought in the mind. So it's like we can have a provision to group and ungroup zones based on the requirement. We can prioritize multiple audio inputs and outputs. So audio inputs like microphone, MP3 player, background music playing, fireman's microphone, etc. can be connected to the amplifier, and based on the requirement, we can play these things. Some of the applications, it's very much straightforward. So in airports, so let's take an example of an airport. So in airports we have different departments, right? We have a launch access department, we have arrival department, departure department, there is restrooms available. Okay, there are different reception area. So if you want to communicate some messages to each department separately, at the same time we need to understand like the people who are moving in and around, if they want to be, if you want to keep them light-hearted and light-minded, we can have a background music that is being played continuously. So all these things can be managed through PAVA systems. At the same time, in case of an emergency, if you want to manage the crowd and to make the crowd aware that this is the place that we need to gather, and proper information should be given only to those areas where emergency is there, let the other areas be function in that manner, so we can make use of PAVA systems. Similarly, in hotel industries, you have different departments. You have parking area, you have reception area, you have different flows where if you want to have different communication needs to be transmitted. So all these things can be well communicated and well established through a PAVA system. A similar application in case of universities and colleges. So universities have different colleges under their control. At the same time, in colleges, you have different departments. There can be a science department, chemistry department. So particular messages to one particular department, it can be transmitted. And the same time, if you want to broadcast any business communication, any content, all those things can be transmitted through PAVA systems and its arrangements. So the schematic diagram that was shown to you earlier, so let's understand it in a better way. So you have the source, then there is an amplifier, and then it is connected to the speakers. Those are the output. Now the source are nothing but the input. Okay, so the input can be anything. It can be a music player, it can be a microphone, USB, FM, CD player, and TV. It can be anything. Maybe it can be a fireman's microphone also, which can be an input. So now this input, it is given to the amplifier. Now the purpose of the amplifier, we all know, it amplifies the electrical signals, and these amplified electrical signals are converted to sound waves, which is given as output through the speakers. So this is the basic thing, and this basic thing is the, it should be, it should be very much clear to everyone, so that it will help us to understand the functioning of the amplifiers ahead. So based on this, we can, let's look at the questions part. You can please answer these questions. So there are two questions. You can please answer it. Uh, it is available for 30 seconds. Okay, let's move ahead. So these are the answers. What are PAVA system? So it's a public address and voice alarm system. Where are PAVA systems used? It is used all of the, it is used in universities, hospitals, airports, all of the above. Okay. Now, so we have this product PAVA 8000. Okay, so it consists of the amplifier. There is a fireman's microphone that is shown here in red color, and there is a paging mic station. Okay, applications like I've mentioned: hospitals, hotels, airports, shopping malls, industries, etc. And this particular system is expandable up to 1000 zones. How we can do that? We can see it. What is the basic system overview? So it supports manual operation. Okay, there are time-based program functions, supports real-time detection of equipment. Okay, so detection of equipment mean if like there is any devices that are connected to the amplifiers, so all those information you would be able to understand. So this is a combination of a hardware and a software. Okay, so whatever kind of devices you're connecting to the amplifier, you will be able to see it in the software, the information, the kind of device, the kind of uh, uh, the inputs that are being shown in the amplifier. So all those information you will be able to see in the software. Operating status, operating log records, you can see it in the software. EN54 and GB16806, these are nothing but standards. Okay, EN54 is a European standard, okay, that is given to the product. And finally, we have fire emergency broadcasting, daily business broadcasting, and background broadcasting. So it's clear, like fire emergency, in case of any emergency, you can broadcast those messages. Daily business broadcasting can be done. At the same time, background broadcasting. Okay, so just an idea like EN54, it's a European standard that is given to the equipment and the amplifiers. Okay, mainly for the power supply equipment. Then EN5416 standing for voice alarm control and indicating equipments, and EN5424 stands for voice alarm loudspeakers. So different categories, okay, for different equipments. That is what the standard is specifying. Okay, now let's look at the construction part of the equipment. Okay, mainly the front panel of the device. Okay, now this section, okay, I will give you an idea. All right. So this section where you can see, this is the emergency section of the amplifier. Okay. Here you have the fireman's microphone. So this is the fireman's microphone. Okay. So you can lift this fireman's microphone, and there is a side button that is provided. So you can click over it and you can transmit the message in case of an emergency through from the control room. Now this red button over here under this protective cover, this is like an emergency button. So the moment you press this button, what happens is that the evacuation messages and the alert messages that are already stored in the system or the amplifier, it plays automatically. Now, in case if it's an evacuation kind of message that you want to transmit, so there is an evacuation button that is there. So you need to press that button and automatically the evacuation message is played. In case of any alert message, press the alert message button that is there, and then you can play the alert messages. And at the same time, you have inputs there. These are like indicators. Okay, so you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 indicators. So these indicators are nothing but your input. So different inputs like mp3 players that wants to be connected, fm tuner or usb. So all those kind of indicators you can see here, the line control. And this button specifies whether that particular message or the music, it needs to be played in all the zones or not. So you can press this button over here and you can understand like where exactly I mean in which department the music is playing. So if you want to play that particular music or any kind of broadcast message to one particular department, so you can control it through this all zone kind of thing. The moment you press this, the entire zone gets activated and the broadcasting messages are like it is like broadcasted in all the zones. The next thing you can also see, there is a master volume controller over here. So the moment you raise the volume at high, what happens is that the entire zone volume is raised in high. Okay, and you can control it to zero and to the maximum. Similarly, you can indicate each zone, you can control each zone separately. Like if you want to switch on zone 1 separately, so there is a switch here. So the moment you press this, the zone 1 is activated. The moment you press zone 2 switch, the zone 2 gets activated. Similarly, you can control it through the volume controller that is provided below. So these are the volume controllers, okay, for each zones. This particular amplifier supports up to 8 zone. It functions up to 8 zone capacity, and the wattage capacity of the amplifier is 500 wattage. Okay. An amplifier is named as PAVA 8500. Okay, and these are some of the indicators over here that shows the AC power. Okay, if there is kind of any communication that is going on, so those things we can see through the indicator. Okay, and this also indicates what kind of messages are being transmitted and what is the current functioning happening. Example, like if BGM music is played, so we will be able to understand, see this is highlighted. This green color indicates that the music is being played in all the zones. Then there is paging. So in case of any paging activity in any other departments, so one will be able to see this paging status getting activated. And in case of emergency, what happens is that the entire zone, it gets highlighted to red color. So it depends, like if you want to highlight all the zones in red color or individual zones in red color based on the emergency and the manual functioning that you prefer. So this is the front part. Okay, so there is audio source selection that I have mentioned, where you can select what kind of audio source input you want, whether it's an MP3 player, whether it's an FM tuner, or whether it's kind of an USB player that you can select. So this is the front panel. Now let's look at the rear panel of the equipment. Now this is the rear panel. So this section, the rear panel, this section, this is a section where the speakers are connected and the zones are mentioned here. I mean, the amplifier is like 8 zone capacity. So we have one zone here. Okay, I'll just zoom it up. Yeah, here we can see it. So this is zone 1, zone 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those speakers are connected at these ends, at these points. And we can also make a note here that each zone is divided into different sections. Okay. Now we have zone 1 that is divided into line A and line B. So in line A itself, we can connect speakers in parallel. The connection of speakers in this case is parallel connection. So you can understand here ki like in one line itself, you can connect up to 20, 30, 40 speakers depending upon the wattage capacity and the requirement. Similarly, in line B also you can connect, 10, 20, 30, 40 speakers. And in zone 2 you can connect similarly 20, 30 speakers. So in one zone itself you can say that 50 speakers can be connected. All right. So it purely depends upon the wattage capacity of the speakers as well. Okay. Now this capacity of the amplifier, it is 500 wattage, and if the speaker capacity is less than 500 wattage in all, then no, the system is okay. The system will function efficiently. But in case if the speaker's capacity is more than the wattage capacity of the amplifier, in that case we need to provide an additional backup amplifier to support the speaker capacity. Okay, we will come to these areas. Now there is a power button over here to understand whether the power is on or off. That can be controlled here. So this is the input, that AC power, and there is a battery for standby power requirement. So in case like if the main power is not available and if you want to continue the entire system to be working on battery, so that provision is also provided. Now this section is nothing but the override inputs. Override outputs. So what do you mean by override outputs? The output are nothing but your speakers in this case, okay? And suppose if there is a background music that is continuously played in all the departments, and if you want to bypass that particular broadcasting music that is being played currently, and instead of that you want to transmit some other kind of information, so because of this arrangement over here, so it will automatically bypass what is currently being played and your fresh message will be transmitted. Now this section over here, it is a kind of a configuration setup kind of thing that is that that is there in the manual itself. Then you have a programmable trigger input. So this programmable trigger input, it is simply uh, now let's take an example of a fireman's microphone. Okay, now in any zone, let's take there is a building. Okay, now in this building you have different floors, like you have first floor, second floor, third floor, and fourth floor. Now our main control room is situated in the fourth floor, and there is an emergency that is happening currently in the first floor. Now there is someone who has pressed an emergency button in the fireman's microphone and he's transmitting some kind of emergency message through it. So this information, it is received as an input to the control room that is there in the fourth floor, and one can understand from where exactly the emergency is happening, and from the control room the person who is sitting there, he can take necessary action. So what exactly the situation is, he will be able to understand through the software where exactly the location from what has happened, and he can control the situation through proper communication. So that is the purpose of this programmable trigger inputs. So you can have different, a fireman's microphone, okay, that can be provided in different areas or different zones to understand in case of an emergency, and we can take necessary action accordingly. Now these ports over here, so these are like for a remote paging uh, mic station. So if you want to connect any remote paging mic station, that can be connected. So this is the arrangement for it. This is an RJ45 port for LAN router connection for PC connection. And this slot is an SD card slot. So in the front panel, we have seen the moment we press the emergency button. So there are like evacuation messages that are played. So the evacuation messages are stored in this SD card. So this message can be played in any language. It can be played in Marathi, Hindi, Gujarati, any language it can be played, and it can be stored in the SD card, and the slot is provided here. And this section is nothing but the input section, like for the mic. Okay, this is the input mic section, and there is an auxiliary input 3 to 6. This is like 3 to 6 section this here. This is an input, so this can be an input for a FM player, CD player. Okay, so all those arrangements input is here. And finally this is the output section, auxiliary output, this part. So this is the rear panel of PAVA 8500 amplifier. So keep in mind the capacity of the amplifier is like 500 wattage capacity, and it supports up to 8 zones individually. Okay. Now this is just an extension of what we have seen. It gives an idea about the speaker connection that is shown there. So the speakers are connected, okay, in a parallel manner in this way. So you can see the speakers, speaker one, speaker two. So those are like connected from here, like each zone. Okay, you can see like each zone is divided in two different sections. So you have zone one, you have two different sections. So this is like one section, and this is like the other section of zone 1. So you can have multiple speakers that can be connected, and this is the configuration part that I've mentioned, like, okay, it's a configuration key. So let's move ahead. Yeah. Now we can understand the system structure and the components. Okay. Now, like I have mentioned, see, each amplifier, it has a capacity of 8 zone. But if we want to extend the capacity, like from 8 zone, if we want to move to 16 zones, from 16 zones we want to move to 24 zones, and so on. If we want to move up to 160 zones, 200 zones. So how we can have this kind of solution for us, we can just see it. So this is the main system host. Okay. Why it is called as system host? This is the master. The master is placed in the main control room. It consists of all the inputs that are connected to it. So you have the mic that is connected. Okay. Then you have the MP3 CD player that is connected, FM tuner that is connected. So all these things are connected to this main system host amplifier. You can see there is a fireman's microphone that is provided only to this main system host or the master amplifier, and it is also connected to the speakers. Okay, you can see here it is like zone 1 to zone 8. Okay, 8 zone capacity amplifier. The next, what we are able to see it here, so like suppose, like I've mentioned, if the speaker's capacity is more than the amplifier capacity, so we will make use of a backup amplifier to support, okay, to balance that wattage capacity. So there is a backup amplifier, you can also say that it's a BGM amplifier as well. And next, this is the extender. Now extender and the system host both are the same. Okay, this extender is nothing but the slave to the master, and this is an extender too. This is also a slave to the master. So these are nothing but your same amplifier with 8 zone capacity. But here you can see there are no inputs given to it, and there is no fireman's microphone that is connected. Okay, so these two are nothing but the slave that obeys the master. Okay, so it is called as 8500 extender E. Okay, so we have two extenders. Okay, now this is like 8 zone, and from 8 zone it is extended to 16 zone capacity, and from 16 zone it is extended to 24 zone capacity. And there is backup amplifier to support the wattage capacity. Okay, as well as we can see here there is an PC controlling software 8000 and 8009 fireman's microphone. So all these things are connected through LAN network over here. So you have a paging mic station 8008 that is also connected in this way. All right, so this is a basic idea about how the connection is for a 24 zone capacity and beyond it. Okay. Let's take a look in this video, like it will give a pretty better idea. So this is the rear part of the amplifier, like we have seen now. This is the paging mic station, and you can see here there is only one fireman's microphone. Okay, here you can see there is only one fireman's microphone, and the remaining is nothing but the extenders. Okay, so this is the master, and the remaining amplifiers are nothing but the slave, you can say, that supports the main amplifier.
Attention.
So you can see it in software. In case the emergency is shown, all the zones are activated. See the emergency message.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? A
fire alarm has been reported.
And this all the zones
Attention,
are in red
please.
color now in case
Attention,
of
please.
emergency.
An incident has been reported in the building.
This is how you communicate.
Attention. Hello, hello.
Attention, please. Attention, please. An incident has been.
So you can understand from this like how many zones they are trying to capture. I mean, it is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you have 11 extenders. 11 extenders means like almost 88 zones plus this main 8 zone. It will be like almost 96 zone capacity amplifier. It is up to like 96 zones, and you have one main paging mic station, and it is also supported by these 3 extenders. I hope you got a very rough idea. uh, let's move. So this is the main uh, amplifier now. So this is the amplifier. Fireman's microphone. You have MP3 CD player that is connected here. Microphones are connected here. Fireman's microphone is there. There's a paging mic station connected, and the extenders that I've mentioned, those are connected here. Speakers from zone 1 to zone 8. Okay, and Ethernet provision and a software. So 500 wattage, 8 zone capacity PAVA amplifier. Okay, now we can understand this. I mean, now let's answer some questions at this point. Yeah, so there are 2 questions. You can answer it. Okay, let's move ahead. So how many zones a single 8500 series amplifier can support? 8 zones. And what is the wattage capacity of 8500 series amplifier? It is 500 watt. Now, paging microphone, it's a straightaway product. Okay, it's mainly for voice evacuation purpose, remote paging purpose, broadcast any kind of important message from the control room. So each microphone this has a 16 zone capacity. So at a time you can connect with 16 zones. Okay, you can page with 16 departments, you can say, and it is extended by an expansion unit. Okay, this is the extender. And then there is an indicator that are shown on this screen, shown on this. And again, it is complied with EN 5416 European standards. This is the back panel of the microphone. So there is a power on off switch. There is an extension keypad link. Okay, second, this is the extension keypad link. This is the power button. Communication port and cascade port. This is here. And then there's a paging microphone. This is a configuration part can be carried out at this point. Then there is a mic output sensitivity adjuster. And finally, there is a line out here. Yeah. Fireman's microphone. Okay, this is nothing but as an input to the main amplifier, your fireman's microphone. So there are different indicators over here. So evacuation messages, you can understand if there is an evacuation message. So that is indicated at this point. Then any kind of alert message that is also highlighted here at this point. Emergency button is there to broadcast the emergency message, which will be taken back to the control room and as well as to the areas. And then, necessary action we can take based on the input. So long distance transmission, and yeah, okay. So let's see the next thing. Yeah, some of the advantages: high standard design meet requirements. It's compliant with European standards and GB standards. It is used for both general purpose broadcasting and emergency broadcasting, and it makes use of a backup amplifier, okay, or you can say a BGM amplifier, like to understand the capacity of the speakers, okay. So these are some of the advantages, okay. Now let's take an example. Now I'm just showing you a used case, you can say. Now there is a company. Now this company is having different departments, right? There is an R&D department, there is accounts department, sales department, projects, and operations department. Now normally, okay, this is an 8 zone capacity. So this is zone 1, this is zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and zone 5. Now at this moment I can say, now there is a background music that is being played continuously in all the departments. Just for our example, now when we page, when there is kind of important communication, or when we are transmitting some broadcasting message to any one of the department. Now let's take an example here. Now if I want to transmit an important message from here to zone 1, that is your R&D department. So whatever kind of background music that was being played in all the other departments, that will be stopped, and only the broadcasting message will be transmitted to the R&D department. Okay. Now if we provide a backup amplifier or a BGM amplifier to the system and it is connected, then what happens is that now, even though there is paging that is going on in this department, okay, now we have mentioned that there is paging or some kind of broadcasting message is being transmitted in this department, but because of this backup amplifier addition to the system, still we can have a BGM that is being played continuously in all the other departments. I hope this point is clear. Okay, now this is something multi-group setup. What we have seen earlier over here, this is a multi-zone setup. Okay, there is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and zone 5. Now there is multi-group setup. Now each zones, they are grouped together. Now we have R&D department, sales department, and operations department in one group. Similarly, we have accounts department and projects department in another group. So this is like group 1 and group 2. So if you want to transmit information only to group 1, okay, those information that is catering only to R&D, sales, and operations. So because of this group setup arrangement, we can have this kind of uh, grouping, and then the messages can be transmitted. Similarly, in group 2, those messages can be transmitted that are catering only to this accounts and projects people. In a very similar fashion, you can page, paging activity can be performed like I have mentioned. So paging is the priority compared to the background music, what is being played in the background. So no matter whatever is being played or whatever things are being in the broadcasting thing that is happening, so when paging is when you opt for paging, so that is the priority. Okay. Similarly, a multi-zone setup in a classroom kind of atmosphere where we have zone 1, like we have all the standards. First standard is like zone 1, including the divisions. Zone 2 is like second standard, zone 3 is third, and zone 4 is fourth standard. Okay, you have a paging mic station to transmit some important messages based on like zone 1, and there is a backup amplifier as well in case like if there is any kind of background music that you need to play it. Okay, so it's the same similar example. So you can transmit messages zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. Similarly, you can also have a multi-group setup. So here you can see all the divisions are like in together. So we have grouped all the divisions, like all the A divisions, no matter whatever it is, like first standard, second standard, third standard, fourth standard. So all the A divisions are grouped in one section, and then we have all the B divisions grouped together, and all the C divisions are grouped together, irrespective of their standards. And then we can, communicate the messages like we have mentioned earlier, how the messages are being transmitted. So you can have a paging mic station if you want to transmit only the paging broadcast messages, or you can also have background music being played through the background amplifier. Just a example. So you can have multiple examples, multiple setup in case of hotels or different areas. So you can have your own kind of examples, and you can, yeah. So some very important point to remember at this point is that there is one input selection that is played across all the zones. So in the amplifier, you can see there are six different inputs. Okay. Now these six different inputs are for music, that is like for FM player, for MP3 player, for TV. So these are nothing but your inputs. But at a time, you can only make use of one single input that can be played across all the zones. Okay, you can't use all the six inputs and different music in different zones. That is not possible. One single input selection, and that is played all in all the zones. Paging is priority. So in case of any kind of emergency paging or some kind of important broadcasting message through the mic, so paging is given the priority and the weightage compared to what is being played in the background. In case of evacuation message or alert messages, so you can have specific zone wise. So each zone you can have alert messages that can be transmitted, or if you want to have all the zones to be highlighted in the case of emergency, that can also be done. So if background music is played along with a paging provision, so backup amplifier is must. So that we have seen. So if you want to have a background music that needs to be played and still paging activity needs to be carried out, so there we should make use of a backup amplifier. Okay, so let's move on to some new areas like intelligent audio system. So a pretty straightforward equipment or a device, you can say. It's a kind of a stereo amplifier that is mounted on your wall, and you can control it via your remote. So there are like auxiliary input, two auxiliary inputs are there. There is like an FM input is there, there is an auxiliary input, and there is an auxiliary output, and there are two speakers that are connected here. Okay, you can mount it on the wall and you can control it. Okay, you can have your music selection, FM selection through the remote. Very much similar to that, this is a different model and suitable for small sized spaces such as residential rooms, offices, convenience stores, and so on. So this also makes use of a speaker. There is a smartphone that can be connected to the system, and you can play music, or some kind of good content can be played via the smartphone. SD card provision is there, along with USB. Auxiliary inputs are there, right? So these are intelligent audio systems, and there are many more models similarly in this category. Now we can look at the speakers part. Okay, there are different number of speakers that supports these amplifiers. So some of the speakers are like fire retardant speaker, fine aluminum mesh, rust proof and durable speakers. So based on your requirement and applications, so there are n number of speakers that are available with us. So this is an EN54 certified speaker. Okay, next we have an invisible speaker. So invisible, like, you know, um this the speaker thickness. Okay, the thickness of the speaker itself is like only 16 mm thickness. So if there is a wall, okay, and if the wall is having a cavity, so you can place this speaker inside the cavity, and you can just have a background color to it that is matching the environment, I mean the background environment. And you can still enjoy the audio or the music, and it will be like completely inside the wall. So that is why the term is like invisible speaker. Okay, now there are some more speakers, like some are like wall mount speakers, some are ceiling speakers, surface mount speakers. So based on the application, you can make use of different speakers. So this is nothing but a volume controller to control the volume. Okay, yeah, some speakers. So dual phase waterproof column speakers, I mean, this has the output in both sides. I mean, the front side also you will be able to listen to it, as well as the rear side also you are able to listen to music. That is why dual phase waterproof speakers. Blow horn speakers, so these speakers are very much familiar to us. We might have seen it in railway stations, okay, bus stations and all. So these speakers are very much in common. Yeah. So these speakers, what we are seeing right now, these are decorative speakers, you can say. Decorative speakers mainly used in like parks, gardens, campus, resorts, and jogging tracks. Okay, for aesthetic appeal. So these are called as rock speakers. Okay, so different size and different shapes are there, as well as you can see a different. Okay, this is one shape over here for garden, like in garden and all, park and all. You can make use of these speakers. Okay, to it's just like to match the surroundings for aesthetic appeal. So wireless column speaker, okay, again you have a wireless speaker. This is like a battery supported speaker. Okay, there's a built-in battery for, as well as it can have some alarm functions as well. Yeah. So very much similar to the speaker, we have acoustic healing device. Now, acoustic hailing device, these are mainly suitable for traffic broadcasting and control, traffic accident control, military and maritime application, emergency warning and fire rescue, and law enforcement and riot controls. Similar to speakers, but this has much bigger capacity. You can say the operating range, it will be from a minimum of 20 meter to a maximum of 1000 meters with a very high frequency. So if you want to disperse a crowd, okay, so this kind of devices can be used if you want to transmit messages over a long distance. So these kind of acoustic healing devices can be used. So the power rating is different. Okay, you have different capacities for different applications. You have 50 wattage capacity, 150 wattage capacity, 500 wattage capacity. Okay, as well as the transmission distance can be as minimum as from 20 meters to 1000 meters, and the frequency can be like 250 hertz to 8000 hertz. Okay, if you can see it here, I will so you can see this is the danger zone. So when it is activated, so the danger zone is like between 0 meter to 20 meter. The dispersing zone is like this, if you want to disperse the crowd, so dispersing zone is from 20 meters to 200 meter. And the broadcasting, so if you the same zone, same this thing only, but if there is kind of a broadcasting message also, so it will be from 200 meters to 1000 meters. So based on the applications, so like mainly suitable for maritime military applications, rescue operations, etc. So let's look at some questions here. Okay, so yeah, you can answer to these questions, and then we can move on. So let's move on to the next topic. Okay, let's look at the answers first. So what is the difference between acoustic hailing device and speaker? So acoustic hailing device are for long range application and speakers are for normal range application. So where exactly acoustic hailing devices are used? Traffic control management, military maritime application, riot control, all of the above. Now let's look at some of the peripherals. Pretty much simple to understand. Peripherals are nothing but some equipments and devices that support your amplifiers. So these are nothing but your AM, FM tuner, CD player, and a timing player. So if you want to function, if you want to have some programs to be like uh, and certain timing, if you want to have some kind of programs to be repeated at certain intervals, so you can have an hardware kind of thing, that is a timing player. Emergency power system, it's nothing but a battery backup. The maximum output is 3 kilowatt, and the support time is like for 3 hours for 1 kilowatt amplifier. Okay, it has an alarm system. A sequence controller. So a sequence controller, from the name itself we can understand, if you want to have certain operations to be started and stopped in a sequence, like take an example of a building, a big commercial building. So in a commercial building, if you have seen that all the equipments, they are not started together, they are started or operated in a sequence. First all the lights are on, and then the HVAC part is on, and then the equipments are on. So if you want to have an automatic sequence controller, where on a time based on a certain time based thing, if you want to have, after 1 minute you want to have the HVAC unit to be started, then you need to, after 1 minute interval or like 10-second interval, you need to have all the lights to be started. So in this manner, if you want to function certain equipments in a certain sequence, so you can make use of a system sequence controller as well. So this is like an overall system of the 8 zone PAVA system. So it consists of your amplifier, there is a battery backup, there is a backup amplifier, control PC, fireman's microphone, a remote paging station, and these are the different zones to it. So this is the BOQ for an 8 zone PAVA solution. So this can support, so this BOQ is for 80 speakers, 500 wattage capacity, 6 zone voice evacuation. Okay. And similarly, for a 24 zone capacity, you can see there are additional extenders that are provided. So this is like for 8 zone. So with this extender, it is like 16 zone. And then again, it goes up to 24 zone capacity. So this is like a fireman's microphone. Again, a remote paging station, audio source, battery. And this is a BOQ for a 24 zone. It's like a BOQ for an hotel. So where we have made use of like 240 speakers, bill of quantity to it, and these are the equipments. There's a paging station, fireman's microphone, and so on. Yeah, and finally we can see the software part. Okay, the software is pretty much simple to understand. Okay, whatever kind of equipments are connected to the amplifier, all those information you will be able to see it here, and all the zones. Okay, like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, 4, 5, 6, all the zones, it is highlighted here. You can see the zones here, as well as you can group the zones as well. Like I've mentioned, you can group the zones, so the group information is also highlighted here. The system configuration, status information, user logs, all the settings are available in the software. Okay, if you want to understand means like the equipments that are connected, okay, and so all this, the functioning, what is the status of the equipments, so all this information are shown in the software. Okay, so we have completed with the PAVA system. So it comprises of the hardware and the software and some of its equipments, right? So there is a paging mic station, there is a fireman's microphone, And apart from that, we have also seen some different speakers and peripherals. Peripherals like MP3 CD players, sequence controllers, and timing players. So these all we have seen today. Apart from that, we also have some other amplifiers. Like what we have seen, it is like an 8-zone amplifier, right? So this is like a 2-zone amplifier. So 2-zone amplifier, this is having three different mic inputs and like two into like auxiliary inputs, and there are like speakers, and there are like supporting zone is like 2-zone capacity. So if you have a very small area, it needs to be function for a very small area or a small restaurant. So these kind of arrangements would be very much useful for a small zone capacity, a PA system. Similarly, you have a 6-zone PA system. So you have four mic provisions and three auxiliary input provisions. Okay, and for 6-zone you can have this kind of arrangement over here. This is how it is connected. Yeah, apart from that, there is also a PAVA system that is like of Mac series, Mac 808, a compact system with integrated function for background music announcement and voice alarm. So this is like a touch panel that is there in this amplifier. A Mac series 2120 front panel, and DSP series. So DSP series, it's a purely IP based system. So you have an IP network host, IP paging control station, a SIP video phone, and it supports up to 500 channels. Okay, SIP video phone, SIP intercom system. So these things, I mean, Mac series, DSP system, all these things, we will be seeing it in our next webinar. Okay, so I hope it was pretty much uh, it was good to understand these topics. And what I would like to convey at this point is that apart from these amazing PA systems, we also provide services in vision science, artificial intelligence, access control systems, large displays, and environment monitoring solutions. So, a point to highlight, we are not simply buying and selling products. In fact, we are a value added solution provider or a value added distributor who believes in delivering best in class solutions to the clients. Okay. So, if you would like to make any inquiries, or if you would have any questions, so you can put it forward and connect with us at sales@terminalx.co.in, inquiry at terminalx.co.in, support at terminalx.co.in. And you can connect with us at this number 8686337878. So if you have any questions, okay, with respect to the webinar or to the product, you can put it forward in the Q&A chat box. So we are available here for the next 2-3 minutes. We can answer it. So, from the entire team of Terminal X and our managing director, Mr. AB Joseph, I would like to thank each and everyone for their participation. Thank you. We will be coming up with more number of webinars for the PA system category as well as environment monitoring solutions, HID access control systems. Hope we can connect once again. Thank you so much.